Hello, everyone. My name is Wrangler Jones. I am the conservation agronomist with DACAP, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about the producer-led demonstration plots we have going on throughout the state this summer. So for people that don't know what the producer-led groups are, there's roughly 50 of them scattered throughout the state, and they're all varied by watersheds within their certain counties or grouped together. And it's farmers leading farmers, I guess, and they're trying different stuff on their farms, and they usually meet and have field days put on throughout the year. And so, a little bit of backstory about how the demonstration plots came to be. About a little over a year and a half ago, a couple of us from DACAP and UW got together, and we were trying to find ways that we could get more conservation on the ground, especially targeting those middle to late adapters. And so, what better way to try to get these farmers more involved than with the producer-led groups throughout the state? These are farmers that are progressive, have been doing conservation or conservation practices for years. They're skilled, and the kind of the thing we want to get done with this is create data, like repetitious data across the state, to make these middle to late adapters feel more comfortable with trying conservation on their farm. And with this, we're creating more protocols and trying to fine tune them that allow us to have the best success so that these farmers do see success and want to try more conservation across their land. And so, yeah, we decided we were going to target producers in the producer group. They are pretty progressive and they're willing to work with us. So this is kind of a pilot program this year. So we targeted 5 groups and asked them if they want to be part of it, and go towards their application and stuff. And we had 4 groups that responded with, yes, we would like to do this, and had farmers in mind that they wanted to try. So we have one group from Buffalo Trempealeau. There's two farmers in that group that have decided to do it. We have one from Epic Group, which is in Marathon County. We have one farmer from the Farmers of the Lemon Wire, which is in Juneau County. And then we have 4 farmers over in Dane County with the Beneficial Farming Friends. So farmers all across the state, all across different landscapes, experiencing different things. So I'm hoping that it all turns out well. And a little bit of what we decided to do, we got together, the DACAP team and UW team got together and figured out what could we do what was going to be one of the easiest ways to get more conservation on the ground, especially for these middle to late adapters. And cover crops is always something. Most people know what cover crops are. And what are we going to do with that, I guess? We're going to try to interseed it with a drone at V3 to V7 corn is our goal. We chose winter rye because it's probably the easiest cover crop to grow. It's aggressive, easily germinates, easy to find. It overwinters, and that has to do with some of the tests we're going to be running here this fall, next spring. And then V3 to V7 corn, we've done some research and found that there's no significant yield loss, or if any, planting it at that time. Most of the time that corn is figured out what it's going to do yield wise. So we didn't see any problem with that. We pitched this idea to the farmers that were interested. They didn't really care much for it. It was almost too simple in their minds, because these are farmers that are trying new things. They're trying multi-species mixes, stuff like that. And so we brought them down, kind of explained to them that we are trying to get middle to late adapters, especially farmers that may be in their own group, to try these practices and get more data. So once we kind of explained what the goal was, they were right on board with it. So there are multiple benefits that we're going to try to measure to see with this whole interseeding cover crops thing, whether these farmers can gain soil health benefits from it, trying to get some more organic matter built up on some of their low to marginal fields, which is what we're asking these farmers to put this on, is their low to marginal fields, just because we feel that we're going to see the best results on that kind of land. And most farmers know exactly which field gives them the most problems with this. We're also going to try to, integrate livestock with this. Maybe this is a possibility for grain farmers that don't have livestock incorporated already on their operation, to incorporate livestock, which leads to some additional income, just because, people will pay to graze their livestock, especially on cover crops, especially in the spring when maybe they're low on feed or need something of that nature, just somewhere to go with them. We also could see some soil health benefits of maybe this field gets a lot of water. Maybe this helps with infiltration rate. So one thing we did measure before we planted stuff was a slake test, which measures the agribility of the soil. And we're going to hope that maybe cover crop will increase that agribility, which is going to increase infiltration, water retention, and such. And then additional income other ways is maybe they don't need to spend as much money on herbicides. We know that winter rye is pretty aggressive, competes with weeds, competes with other plants. So maybe that kind of suppresses weeds as well as scavenges nutrients. Maybe we can measure how much nutrients it scavenges, and then that plays a part onto next year's crop as well. Maybe they won't need to spend as much on fertilizer, and which plays a role into our weed control and nutrient scavenging goals as well. So what we asked these farmers to do was select a field that was low to marginal, that they're going to be no-tilling corn into, what else would we ask? That there's no manure applied to these fields. And we decided to go with a 60-pound rate of winter rye to try to get a decent amount of biomass, especially if we're going to be trying to position this towards maybe farmers that are trying to integrate livestock on their fields. 60 pounds is kind of the max rate a drone can put on per acre. It gets a little bit more expensive at that rate. And we also felt that with the prop wash, the downforce from the propellers of the drone, that we would get a little bit better seed to soil contact versus just regular broadcasting, which maybe you would just broadcast at a higher rate. So we accomplished all this. We also took soil tests before we planted to get a baseline of where these fields were. And then we also took a soil respiration test measuring the amount of CO2 emitted from the soils. The higher the CO2, the more microbial activity. So seeing if these cover crops will promote microbial activity in the future. So we got this all done. We went out right away when it emerged and had great emergence. And then roughly around end of June, early July, we went out and kind of got a look now that everything was kind of canopied over. And this is how it was going so far, end of June, early July. As we can see, the cover crop rye, the winter rye, established really well. We didn't really have any germination issues. And then I got 5 pictures of it looking really good. I have many, many more of those pictures. But we did have one problem. The photo in the red on the right, that is water hemp growing in that field. And that was more of a herbicide issue, timing the right herbicides. And then also the farmer at the same time was like, yeah, this is my worst water hemp field. I'm like, oh, it's a little too late now. We're also, determined by what herbicides we can use. But if you do look underneath the water hemp, there is rye growing, but it's going to be kind of hard to tell in the future. So we may have some problems with that one, but 1 out of 8 I thought was pretty good. Some of the other covers, so we had farmers in this group that since they had a drone out, they wanted to apply a couple more things. So we had a couple farmers that planted annual ryegrass, anywhere from I think 12 to 20 pounds an acre, depending which farmer it was. And the 2 photos on the left is what the annual rye kind of looks similar to what the winter rye looks like. I like that. It looks good germinated wise. The third picture in, that is annual rye where skip row or the planter was plugging kind of happened. And so it's kind of cool to see how much sunlight changes everything. The photos on the left have that suppression from the corn canopy, and it really does suppress it quite a bit. And then we have a multi-species mix on the way right. I think this is from our EPIC group up in Marathon County. There was a mixture of clover, radishes, and turnips, and some rapeseed in there, I believe. And that exceeded quite well. The farmer told me what he put on for herbicide as well. And in my opinion, that probably shouldn't be growing there just because that herbicide had quite a strong residual in it. I've saw some of these plots 2 or 3 weeks ago from when this is being recorded. And I noticed that some of the winter rye is starting to turn spindly and stuff. We're hoping that when leaf drop happens, that kind of refreshes back. But this multi-species mix that they had planted really shined, and it seems to be staying pretty hardy and growing pretty well. So that was pretty interesting to see. So some of the things we have learned so far with this, we're going to get more data yet this fall, next spring, but just in a short amount of time, we've learned that the timing can be good and bad. The good thing is it's been a wet spring this year, so being able to get a drone across there and not have to worry about getting machinery or equipment stuck or causing compaction has been quite nice. The bad part is, like we saw in the pictures with the water hemp herbicide, timing is kind of tricky. Some of these farmers have experience with interseeding and kind of have a routine herbicide program that they use for this. So that's something that should be able to be easily mitigated in the future. Species, the winter rye looks pretty good. The multi-species mix look pretty good. I think if we have success with this, we'll start seeing more seeding rates change with different multi-species mix, just because most of the time we're using multi-species, we can put on a lesser rate so the drone can get across more acres faster, making it a little bit more affordable to do. Weed control, we've seen that we can save money. Some of these farmers haven't put residual down, so that's saving them maybe 15 to 20 bucks an acre in that, just because that winter rye kind of helps compete with weeds until canopy for sure. And then we've also learned that the availability is quite nice. So getting a drone operator out there during that V3 to V7 time range, they're not particularly busy during that time of year, so it was pretty easily to find one versus fungicide season or leaf drop season. We'll be taking some tests this fall. We'll take yield tests or yield checks comparing strips and seeing if there's that rye is taking anything away from the corn. We're also going to be looking at soil tests, comparing strips and plots to see how much nutrients that winter rye is actually scavenging. We're going to take some biomass samples this fall and I think next spring just to see how much biomass is getting created. And then we'll take some forage analysis of that as well, just so we can try to put some numbers to paper on exactly what the feed value would be of if someone was interested in looking at it as a livestock purpose. We'll take a slake test again, measuring the agribility, see if that helps. And then there's going to be more protocols to come. We kind of got another set ready to go for producer-led groups that are more interested in it next year, focusing on more simple rotations like the corn grain, but maybe we'll have one for corn silage, and soybeans. And I think those are out now. So there's definitely more information to come across this, more data, and we're hoping to kind of build a base with this data and try to get more conservation on the ground. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this.